Hey everybody, this is Jennifer. Welcome to today's episode of Office 365 Pulse. I have the great honor of having Asif Rehmani join me today. So Asif, I hope you can get your video started, woohoo, and unmute yourself. And it's going to be a great show today. We're going to talk about some of the updates to Office 365, and then we're going to have a discussion about workflows. But before we get started, Asif, how about you give yourself an introduction on the show and kind of give us a little bit of background about who you are and your love of all things SharePoint.
All right, I'll try to keep it brief. Hi, everybody. My name is Asif Rehmani. I've been SharePointing in the SharePoint community since 2002. So it's been a long time, 14 years, if I count correctly so far.
Wow.
My main focus has been and continues to be mentoring, strategically consulting, training, speaking at conferences, and writing about SharePoint. And I do that in various ways through books, articles, conferences, and things like that. Of course, hopefully some of you are familiar with our SharePoint videos site, sharepointvideos.com or visualsp.com. So check that out. And that's, in a nutshell, who I am, what I do.
Awesome. Well, I guess I should give everybody just a little intro on me in case they don't know who I am. But I am Jennifer Mason. I work at Planet Technologies. I'm a director out there for innovation and strategic projects, which means I'm helping bring new product lines online, helping us figure out what is best for our SharePoint customers, what we can offer, what we can do. And so I spend a lot of time with end users figuring out what they do. I've also been doing SharePoint as long as I can possibly remember. I love it with a focus on the business. And I tell everyone that I'm allergic to syntax and semicolons. So pretty much anything you can do without a syntax and a semicolon is going to be my sweet spot. So without further delay, we will jump into the changes that we have seen in Office 365. Now, I put the link to the Sway in the chat window, so anybody that wants to open it and follow up on their own, that they can do that, or they should be able to see it on the screen, but you can also reference it post-show so you have access to it. So a little bit about Asif and I up in the front, and then we're going to jump immediately into roadmap updates. So these are always fun. In the last couple of weeks, they've made, maybe it may even been a month or so that they made this change, but they put in a feature that allows us to see what has been updated just within the last 30 days and what has been added in just the last 30 days. And those are wonderful updates. And so I'm super happy. It looks like the Sway was missing, so I'm going to go ahead and add that in there as well again for everybody. Okay, now it's in the chat window. But they made this wonderful update that lets you trigger to see what has just changed in the last 30 days. I love the roadmap when they first put it out, and I loved the attention of detail that they were putting on it. I hated the amount of noise. It almost seemed not really worthwhile because it was just crazy. And so in the community, Victor Weiland, one of the amazing MVPs, he has a roll-up that he does of it. And so with his permission, we're linking out to his blog post, and he does kind of a detailed summary about once a month about everything that's rolled and how that might impact you. So we went ahead and pointed to that there, so you can open it if you want to dig into more details. But to be perfectly honest, in the last month or so, nothing significant has been added or is showing up, or is nothing that there's significant changes, but nothing that we really haven't heard of before. So a lot of things will get announced, and then when they're actually rolling out or launching or in development, they've been there for a while, but we kind of find out about them, through the Office blogs. So there's nothing really too significant that I've noticed that I was really going to talk through too much. There's some interesting things like guest access support inside of Office 365 groups, which is interesting because you want to have groups with some external people, as well as, fast track. Lots and lots of changes have been coming to the fast track, so that's an area to watch. But other than that, nothing too crazy. How about you, Asif? Have you noticed anything on the roadmap just lately that's made your blood boil or your heart beat faster because you're so excited?
Not the roadmap, but of course, Yammer is a key word, right, for the week right now, of how things have been going back and forth on what the rumors were and then what actually happened. Maybe I'll let you take it. I don't want to take your thunder away, but I think that's the big thing that's been on my mind, aside from the small changes here and there.
Yes, and we're getting to our lovely friend Yammer in just a few minutes. But okay, so that's kind of the roadmap thing. We'll kind of keep going down here. Message Center updates. I thought this was interesting. There was a lot of updates in there that I felt that would be of interest to people. And so the first one is that Office 365 groups now support e-discovery for litigation holds, dynamic membership, and additional things, additional e-discovery features. So I know there is a big subset of people in the industry that will not use Office 365 groups until there's some additional features there, and e-discovery was one of them. And so expected completion of rollout is going to be in February. Pretty sure that's supposed to say 2016, not 2015, but user error, sorry. But definitely check that out if that is something that you're interested in. Planner preview, so cool. Asif, have you played much with Planner?
I can't say that I have, unfortunately, but I've heard a lot about it, had really good conversations with folks who have played with it, who have worked with it, and it looks good. Fundamentals look good. It's not as feature rich, which could be a good thing.
Yeah.
In the beginning, but let's see what the roadmap holds for this thing.
Yeah, I've got lots of room in my heart to fall in love with Planner. I love it. Yeah. I hope it's as beautiful as I think it's going to be. Seen lots of demos. I'm going to try to probably the third or fourth Pulse show from now, once people have been able to play with it a little bit, once I'm able to dig in and get some more information, I might try to do a focus on Planner and show off some of those pieces. So far, the only person that I've known that's been able to actually get their hands on it and get it inside of a tenant has been Corey. And he got it inside of one of his tenants. I haven't seen it roll to mine yet. There is a process you have to follow to get it turned on. So once you're signed up for first release, I'm linking over here to the where it says Planner Preview. You can click on that and it will open up and tell you the steps you have to take. It's fairly easy. You just basically have to enable it for your tenant. So that is something that you should definitely, if you're running first release, you should go through those steps and then see what happens when it turns on within your tenant. We've got mandatory anonymous link expiration now available. This is great for admins, again, for managing content. I may want someone to be able to send an anonymous link to someone so that they can view a document, but I probably don't want that to exist for forever. And let's be honest, if I'm an end user, I'm going to share that anonymous link and I am never, ever, ever, ever going to think about it again. I'm not going to think, oh, project is over, I should stop sharing this. Or, you know, I'm going to just make a mess that my admin and my security teams have to worry about. So I am excited about this one. Also, if you seem to be smiling like you felt this.
So actually, this is news to me also, so thank you for sharing this. I got a question about this thing, Jennifer. Something that comes to my mind as just a, let's say, a tenant administrator is, does that mean that it's always mandatory, or is it a function that I can make it mandatory in my tenant? You know?
Yes, so I believe what you're able to do is you're able to set in a default date. So it's going to, and now I've got to find it. I sent the actual where you could set it.
Code that you love the most.
Yeah, syntax semicolons, guys. I better close this before I get a rash. Anyway, with PowerShell, you can go in and change what the defaults are. So if you didn't want it to apply to everything, you could set like a, you know, ridiculous default, or if you wanted it set really tight, you could set it. So it should fail gracefully with people doing it, but yeah, that's kind of my understanding of it. It's one of those ones that's there. If you want to change it, you have to use PowerShell to tweak it. Yeah,
this is, you hit it on the head. This is an extremely important point, that unless you are forced to set an expiration date for as an end user, you will not do it.
Nope.
This at least makes you think about what is going to be my end date for this resource. And this is a really, really good addition, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I really like it. And you can, I believe, set it so people can have an expiration date with a limit on it, so they can't set an expiration date longer than or something like that. So
that's good.
Very, very good stuff. Another change that people might notice if they're in first release, I have not noticed this in any of my tenants, and I am running first release, but I also, in my tenants, a lot of my tenants are test tenants that have first release turned on, and they don't have a lot of sites content, so I'm guessing I didn't qualify for the people that they were really trying to test this with. But your sites pages is changing, and so what I mean by that is when you go to the waffle where you can get the launched all the applications, application quick launcher. When you go there and click sites, right now it's got a certain display and it's got your promoted links. And that view is changing. So they have changed that view. It's going to streamline some of that, show some different pieces, and I believe they're just really setting the framework for continuing to make valuable changes to that site's upload piece, or that site's page where you want to go, and it's not an upload, but that you want that overall directory and view into all of their sites. And so, Asif, have you happened to see that?
I'm just looking at it right now. I just clicked on my tenant, and I don't have that update. So it's the old view, which I personally don't like the current view. I'm glad that they're going to be making a big change to it to give it an uplift.
Yes, and I'm super excited about it. Honestly, with the changes, and when I saw what the changes were, I think you'd almost have to be paying a lot of attention to notice. The changes are very subtle.
Oh, really?
It actually gets a little bit busier, which I don't love, but I love the framework. It's like they're trying to, and I don't know, but I envision they're trying to get to this grandness over here, and they're taking this one small step. And so I'm really excited to see what's coming with it.
So, folks, if you, I don't know, there's a question window that I see, and I'm sure people can ask questions and interact with us, right?
Yes.
If you guys have any thoughts on this stuff, welcome to put something out there as well. As Jennifer said right now, if it's a small chain, if it's making it busier, what goes into my head as also a kind of administrator is, I would want to customize it. So if it is busier for something else, I would want to do it, make it a little bit different.
Right.
Anybody out there feels the same way, the same kind of need?
Yeah, and I wonder, I was on a call kind of going along with that where we were talking to a bunch of people, and they kind of did a poll of who's actually using the sites pages. And there were not many people that said they used it at all, which I thought was really interesting. Personally, I use it. So at Planet, we're a big Office 365 user, and so all of our content's there. And I use the sites page all the time to save my favorite sites and different things like that. But I guess it might not be the norm for a lot of people to use that page. Not saying I really blame them, because it's kind of clunky, but I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
I wonder how telemetry plays into it, right? Like, did they realize that no one was ever touching that site, and so now they're going to have to go make changes to it so people touch it? I don't know. It's interesting.
It is interesting. I agree. And also, of course, the fact that for folks who have been using SharePoint for a long time, and they go into SharePoint Online or Office 365, and they click on this waffle and they don't see SharePoint, right? They see the sites, but they may or may not relate automatically for that to be SharePoint sites just to begin with. Because, I mean, the S and the three dots that's there is SharePoint logo, but I can't say that everybody's familiar with that logo. So then you got that logo, and you got sites, and you're still looking on as to where are my SharePoint sites?
And then you've got sites, you've got Yammer, you've got groups, and now I've got different pages to go to all of them, and now I'm confused. So, so it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see where they're going. Again, I don't have it, or else I'd show everybody, but I'm guessing I will be getting it pretty soon. Next thing, pretty easy, the praise feature, which I used this for the first time last week, and I loved it. I was able to go to somebody's My Site. They were doing training with me, and I was observing them as they were doing training. And I was able to go in and send a praise. And when I praised her, it automatically emailed with a cute little trophy. Based on the type of praise you're giving them, it has a little different icon. And it formatted a real nice email, put my message, sent it to her boss, and to my boss. And it was a really great experience, because then her boss and my boss were able to comment back in there. And it was really nice. And so there were some, I don't want to say issues with it, but some improvements they wanted to make with how it's kind of handled on the back end. And so people who had seen praise, it was going to disappear for a while and then come back once the changes were rolled out. So a real great example of first release. They rolled it out. It wasn't quite what it needed to be as people started using it at scale. So they went ahead and they're, disabling it, adding some new features, and then re-enabling it. So I'm sure that they wouldn't do that for major features, but that one's kind of a soft feature, so I can see why they're disabling it and putting it back. So I thought that was really cool. And then the last one is that SharePoint Online and OneDrive for Business alert emails that you get. So anything you're doing that triggers an alert email notification to you, they've changed the formatting of the email to make it a better user experience. Again, I don't have a copy of what those emails look like yet. It was more just a heads up that's basically saying the format of the emails is changing. So that'd be like if you share it with somebody, hey, somebody shared this link with you, and different things along those lines. So they're reformatting those. I never really had a problem with the emails that came, so maybe I'll notice a big difference with the new ones. I don't know. Asif, do you have any thoughts on that one or opinions?
On that one specifically, no. Email alerts are email alerts, and in this case, as long as I know, that's fine. I did have an opinion if you're praise feature. Can I say something about that?
Go for it. Bring it in.
Yeah, this thing, I feel has been and continues to be very similar to where, for example, LinkedIn has been going, right, with the endorsements.
Yeah.
So somebody endorsed you, and then you get an email notification that this person endorsed you, and then you go and connect with this person a little bit more because now they thought about you. At least that's what happens with me at time to time. And I think this is great that we're bringing this into the social, social picture of within the intranet as well, within the environment, because that is definitely a proven feature. Same thing happened with the community sites, if you remember. In SharePoint community sites, you can also award things to people and points and stuff like that, and that was a great feature. Every time I showed it in my classes, people said, "Yeah, I want that." And a lot of people in organizations like that out there, I know for a fact, they're still using community sites for that specifically. So kudos to them to enhancing that feature. That's great.
Yeah, and I really like it. And I think one of the things that they talked about changing was how it gets auto-posted on the back end, because one of the big concerns about people was, okay, are people going to abuse this feature? And that's a concern about everything. But I think they've, that's kind of why they put it out there. They're getting feedback and they're making good things with it. I think as soon as it becomes more readily available, I mean, to be honest, how often am I on somebody's home profile page right now? It's not very often unless I'm specifically looking for something or looking for something with them or have to go there. But I imagine if it becomes as integrated as everything else, that whenever I see a person, I'm going to be able to automatically, think about like Link. What if it could trigger in with there so that I'm seeing them, I'm already having a conversation with them, and I can immediately hit a praise or immediately hit a kudos or something like that. It could get really powerful and integrated. So I'm excited about that. All right. A few more updates here. That's really all the messages. So moving on to the blog post where we have some updates. We'll start with the two easy ones and then we'll finish with the big one. Easiest one of all of them is the SharePoint 2016 and Project 2016 servers are up for release candidates. So if you are looking at the on-prem versions of 2016 SharePoint, 2016 Project Server, those are available for you to download and to work with. So that came out a couple weeks ago. At least I think that's when I remember the blog post was. But unfortunately, in January, I was sitting on a beach for a couple of weeks, and so I kind of postponed the sway. So sorry about that, but we're back up and running now. The beach was wonderful. The other updates are pretty easy around Office, right? So a couple of changes to Mac and iOS. So Skype has got some more scheduling updates and it's just easier to work with. A full screen view in Outlook for Mac. So very small features unless it's a feature that you were just dying to have. Then you're like, okay, that's kind of cool, but it's there. There's some new inking tools for Mac, so you can do more with OneNote and different things like that in there with inking tools, which is actually a pretty cool thing because I know OneNote is one of the products that they're really trying to get synergy across all of the platforms, and it behaves differently on different platforms. So you're really seeing that team step up to the tool or step up to the plate and update the tool and get it ready to go. Sway now has a recycle bin, which is very good. I don't know if you've ever worked on a Sway, and oops. So it's very nice that it has a recycle bin now. now. That's also another step in making Sway more realistic, possibly, for business organizations. How about you, Asif? Do you use Sway at all?
Ooh, you caught me. I actually don't. I am still a PowerPoint guy personally. I've used it a few times to test things out, but every time I try and do this for a session that I'm doing or for some, that kind of presentation, at least it does for me. It doesn't flow the way I want it to flow. Not saying that it's bad, no disrespect to Sway, but I still am a PowerPoint guy.
Yeah, there's a few things that are really, really difficult for me in Sway, like the way these images are like auto-populated with the text and stuff like that. To me, it gets the point across and it works. And I really try to use Sway as a tool in my Pulse shows so that I can, show people, give them an example of using it. But it's so hard to make it look the way that I want it to look still. And so it could just be because I'm maybe doing something complex, or I'm just so used to doing it in PowerPoint that I find it takes me a lot longer to do things in Sway than it does to do in PowerPoint. So I think they've still got some work. I think we've still got some work to do there, but I think they're making huge improvements. So I love all of that. Okay.
Awesome.
And the last one, woohoo! I was not expecting this blog post to come out. I think it was yesterday maybe, with a title that said Yammer for all. So Office 365 tenants are now going to automatically have Yammer turned on for integration automatically. So Asif, why don't you just go ahead and give us your thoughts on this one.
Yeah. So Yammer has been one of those things, right, where people have gone back and forth on the merits of Yammer, and is it really a fad or is it going away? Was it a $1.2 billion mistake by Microsoft?
Yeah.
And of course, the major thing behind the Yammer acquisition, and I can tell you this for a fact, was the community that's built around Yammer. Microsoft wanted that. They did get it. And I believe it is a great engaging community. It is also different demographics, which Microsoft did not have, at least a big portion of it. So now, of course, with the news that popped up a couple of weeks ago or something about the Yammer team being let go, and there have been rumors even before as to if Yammer is really going to be,
right,
they're going to be going in. So there's been a lot of speculation. And now, like you said, this news comes out saying, hey, Yammer is going to be rolled out in Office 365 tenants. What that tells me personally is that Yammer is not dead, number one, right? And number two, that Yammer is still the platform which provides the best bang for the buck for the social components that we need alongside Office 365.
Yep.
The newsfeed, fine, it's a small thing that's already in SharePoint sites, right? And then there's other components like the community sites and stuff like that, which does give you portions of it. But Yammer is Yammer, catches on quickly, has a easy way to get in to that. From the purchase of when Yammer was purchased by Microsoft till now, there's been lots of improvements. There's been a few things which I don't agree with because there's just the UI, the way it has changed, but overall there's been lots of improvements, at least in my point of view. So I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I think Yammer is still here to stay, at least the base components, and then building on top of it is what Microsoft is going to continue to do.
Yeah.
To integrate it further and further. And just like you said, the telemetry is what they're counting on, right? So same thing with here. When this gets rolled out and people use it or don't use it, they'll understand what's going on and hopefully they'll make the changes necessary to do it right.
Yeah. A couple of things. First off, yes, you can turn it off. So it's going to be automatically enabled, but yes, you can go in and say, I don't want this. It's just if you create a new tenant or even an existing tenant, it is going to be auto provisioned. So we've got that there. It's starting in waves. So it is going to starts today. So started yesterday. The second wave starts March 1st. The third one starts on April 1st. They've got some information. It's a great article out there. So that being said, those are where you can go turn off the features. I did kind of want to speak to Asif's comment about the rumors of the Yammer team and different things like this. And so maybe 2 weeks ago, CMS Wire posted an article, and they were talking about, oh my God, Yammer CSMs are gone, and there was a team instead of Redmond. I think it was about maybe 47-ish people or something like that. They were CSMs. They were customer service managers. And if you look at what's happening, they were let go. But if you also look at what's happening with the fast track, it's kind of a merging of all things. A lot of the things that the CSMs are responsible for doing is now kind of consumed by the fast track, or is on the roadmap to get consumed by the fast track. So yes, it is an interesting thing, and it makes you question what's going on with Yammer. But when you look at the bigger picture, it's not like the Yammer engineering team was let go or anyone at that level. It was a way that they do delivery and manage success. And if you look at the changes that have come from fast track to now it's the onboarding center, or it was onboarding center, now it's fast track, it's opening up to be involved and available to so many more users. You used to have to be 150 or higher. Now you just have to be 50 users or higher. And so when you start to look at that, some of those things were folding together. So there was a lot of tension about that, and people going, oh my gosh, it's the end of Yammer. I don't think that's there. I think that they still have an amazing need in this world to make things integrated, right? Like, I cannot have to choose between a group, a team site, and Yammer. All of these things need to somehow easily come together to make it easier for my users. So I still think there's going to be companies right now that have to make a choice. If Yammer makes sense, go for it, go whole hog and do it. If it doesn't make sense, turn it off and wait and see when the integration comes. And so I don't think it's going away, but I don't think the story's over. I think it's got a lot more and needs a lot more. It just needs some love. So it's kind of my 2 cents on it. This is one of those topics that could go forever. I think people feel passionately about Yammer. They either love it, they're completely scared of it, or they totally hate it. And so it's kind of fun to get into those camps and see all of those different stories. But great insights on Yammer there, Asif. Definitely enjoy hearing that from you. So cool stuff. Next up is the video portal. And so it's interesting. They did a blog post about the video portal, and this infograph, they even encouraged us through one of the MVP channels to really speak to this infograph and to show this to people because they feel like this is a great way to just talk all the way through everything that the video portal has to offer. And I think if you are new to the video portal, or if you haven't looked at it in a while, a lot of interesting updates have been made to it. There's so much value. I mean, Asif, you know all about videos and the value and different things like that. Do you use the video portal at all, or have you seen some companies successfully use this one?
Yeah, I've definitely used it myself, and I've seen a couple of companies do some stuff with it, but successfully doing it for a big enterprise, that I've only heard about once, and I've not seen it yet. Yeah. For a large enterprise. For small companies, definitely. For larger ones, not yet. And it is a really good platform for what they provide, for Microsoft provides, but I've seen people realize when they get into it is that, oh yeah, I need X, Y, and Z, and that X, Y, Z is not available for free for me in Video Portal, and then they start looking at other video platform providers, like, I don't know if you're familiar with Ramp, for example, and there's one out there. So then they end up buying that thing for their real needs. So it's still a work. It's a good platform, but I don't think it has everything that I need.
Yeah, yes, interesting perspectives there too. For a lot of small organizations, it actually works great.
Yeah.
Because you have the channels, and you can have a limited number of channels, and everything works. But as soon as you start becoming enterprise, there's just a lot more questions, and it may be perfect for what you need, but it may also be a point. A lot of companies, if I give you a solution and you can give me X and Y, that's all I need. But some companies, they absolutely need that Z, and if they can't have it, it's not going to work. And so I totally agree with your feedback on that one.
So and I'll throw a little bit more in there. For example, transcription is important to me for Video Portal. Search and transcription is important to me. Being able to skip within the video, having different formats of the video. But in addition to that, having the metadata searchable. Yeah. And then having it linked to other videos. As a video person for myself, many years now, these are things important to me, and I would want all those things on day one in Office 365 Video. and not everything is there. Some stuff is
Right. Right. And you fall into a little different camp because you're actually an ISV providing videos to people. And so it's a little bit different. The tools that you would need on day one, might not match the tools that other orgs would need. But you're like one of those advanced use cases, right? And, maybe one day they'll get there. Who knows how long it will take, but it's a very interesting, observation there. Awesome. And so the next little piece I have before we jump in and let Asif give us the lowdown on workflows is case studies. So there were just a few case studies in here. One that I think is of interest is Cushman and Wakefield. And their case study is around how they chose the E5 licensing. So I know there's a lot of organizations around there. They're going to be up for re-signing contracts and looking at different things. And the E5 is going to be, dangled in front of you like a beautiful carrot that you are just ready to gobble. And so I think this is a good case study for you to read through, see what they have, maybe pull some interesting things for yourself and see if it's something that can really have an impact with your users. So I thought that was interesting. A couple others, Kraft and Heinz was about their merger and how they were able to, from day one, kind of work through the merger and do some of the other things. The rest of them I read through, but I didn't remember. So it must not have really been super impactful to me at the time I was reading through them. But those are case studies that they have posted this week. And with that, I am going to kind of set the stage here for Asif to kind of give us the lowdown. I only went 3 minutes past when I told you I would. Kind of set the lowdown on workflows. So Asif, why don't you kind of jump us in. What do workflows mean in this day and age, and what do we need to be looking at, and what are some awesome things we can do?
All right. You want the good news first or the bad news?
I love good news. I hate bad news.
I love good news. Good news is that everything that you could do a couple of years ago, you can still do right now.
Awesome.
Do you want the bad news now?
Yes.
Everything that you could do a couple of years ago, you could do right now. So
okay. You got me.
It's really good stuff, but it hasn't improved any after, which makes my job easy, of course, as a presenter for workflows for so many years. But at the same time, I was hoping for some little bit more. So what I can talk about, what I can say right now, is the stuff that has been evergreen for a while. Not evergreen, not always, but the improvements that were rolled out in 2013 are the same improvements that we have right now, 2016. Having said that, I present a lot, as you know, on workflows within SharePoint environment and Office 365, right? And I get this question all the time. First of all, what has changed? So the answer is nothing. But also the question of what is getting deprecated, or if anything. And the answer to that is also nothing, which is thank God. So what I want to do,
the good, the bad, and the ugly, it's all the same with workflows.
I gotta tell you, I say it like it is. I mean, sometimes people don't like the message, but you know what? I want people to get disappointed right now, as opposed to get disappointed once they get into it and then realize, oh man, I wish Asif had told me this thing. He was giving me all the good stuff, but not the drawbacks. I think the story is great the way it is, but it is for this much of the audience. There is this other part that you'll find only in the vendors out there, So then sometimes I talk about the vendors as well. That here's what I don't want to name specific ones, but I think all of us know which workflow vendors are out there, right? They're very popular ones. So then I talk about here's what you will get with this vendor. Here's what you will get with this vendor. Here's a drawback for this one, and here's what you get without the vendor story. And then whatever fits, it fits. You go with that. At least you know what you don't know right now, as opposed to knowing it 6 months from now. But that's when it really hurts. When you think you promised your executives and everybody that here's what you can do, and then realize that, oh man, I wish I had known this before. Yeah. So having said that, what I'm going to do, actually, if it makes sense, is I'll share my screen.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And I'll go into a few things here and there. Let's see. So first here, share screen. So stop your screen. Okay, and here we go. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Awesome, I can see it.
All right, and I'm just going to put this presentation to. I do a whole presentation, which takes about 75 minutes, which I'm not going to do right now. But it talks about SharePoint Designer specifically driven workflows. And as you can see over here, it says for Office 365 and for on-premise, right? So it's exactly the same for both, for on-premises and Office 365. For folks over here, of course, you're familiar with and you want to know the Office 365 story and what it is that you can do with automation of processes within Office 365. So I'll focus specifically on that. But just so you know, as I mentioned, it's the exact same for SharePoint 2013 as well. So I'm going to go ahead and now and skip because, like I said, I don't want to cover every single thing. That's going to be too much. Here is a good slide, I think. The type of case scenarios, like, what is automation process? What should I be thinking about? What kind of scenarios can I do? So here's what you should think about, in my opinion. Asset checkout system, vacation approval. So like when Jennifer went on a beach vacation, maybe she used an approval process, or maybe she just gave herself approval. I don't know.
I just laughed.
Well, you can do that, Jen, because you have that status with the company, right? For small people like myself, we need approval. Me, it was for my wife, actually. I go somewhere. But, so that kind of approval process, expense reimbursement for afterwards, onboarding process, publishing approval, moving documents from one library to another, issue reporting. And that's just a few things that I thought about when I was making this slide deck a while back. And I threw it in there. But of course, there's so much more.
What's your most popular?
In here, the expense reimbursement obviously is a big one. Parts of onboarding also is a big one. The onboarding is a huge thing, though, within the bigger companies. So to be honest, onboarding you can't do end-to-end within SharePoint Designer workflows. You can do it as a workflow or workflows, but it's got to segment out. It's got to be one pushing the other one and stuff. So it's not as simple. But
I did one of those one time, and after we finished it, we're like, wow.
It's a lot of pieces, a lot of moving pieces, of course.
And very customized. Everybody seems to think, onboarding should be one of these things that is just easy across everybody, but it's not. Everyone's onboarding completely custom.
Absolutely. So expense reimbursement, I forgot to also mention that moving documents from one library to another, that's like a very small one. There's another one that's not in here, actually, is setting a title for a document. So whenever a document gets pushed in, automatically set the title for the document based on some certain metadata and parameters. And then expense reimbursement. These are the main ones, but the other ones are, of course, popular as well. These are just the main ones, though. So this is why you would want to care about workflows, right? Within, well, any workflow. It doesn't have to be SharePoint workflows, even outside. But within the SharePoint framework, the good thing is we have these automatic components already there for us.
Right.
We have the permission framework, right? We have the lists, we have the libraries, we have the people object within that. We have the whole sites. We have all these objects that are in SharePoint, and then we have the workflow engine that you can take and then go ahead and do stuff with these objects and say, hey, when he does this or she does that or this group does this, trigger this off and do that. And so it's good to have those building blocks and then have something like SharePoint Designer, for example, that you can use to manipulate these building blocks to have this case scenario be formed. And these are some of course, these are just to get started. There's many, many, many more case scenarios. But the main thing to keep in mind within SharePoint also is, if you're looking at SharePoint, the tools that you care about, that you would care about as a browser, SharePoint Designer, Visio 2013, and Visual Studio. These are the 4 things that you would keep in mind when thinking about workflows, creation, editing, or migration, whatever of workflows.
Surprised to not see Outlook on there. I guess Outlook's not a tool. It's just where things land, right? Like the emails and...
These are the, I should say, these are the design environments.
Got it. Okay. Got it.
So not for the viewer. Now, the ones that I focus on the most is the browser, SharePoint Designer, and Visio. Visual Studio workflows, the last time I did it, because I do have a developer background, the last time it was in Visual Studio 2010. And even that was just primary stuff. But before that, Visual Studio 2008, I believe, before that is stuff I used to do a lot of stuff with. We've come a long way for developers also. If they want to dive in, it's much, much easier right now to do workflows in development than it used to be, at least when I used to do it. But we're not talking about development right now. We're talking about the easy part of development, right? We're talking about the no-code development or the power user development or citizen developer or whatever you want to call it.
The kind that won't give you a rash.
Yeah, that won't give Jen a rash. Specific, no semicolons.
No syntax. Oh, there's a little bit of syntax, but it's done for you, mostly.
There's a lot of syntax, actually, to be honest, but it's all done for you, actually. Yeah. You don't really need to see anything in the back end. That's a good part. I'm going to actually go down a few of these slides that I see over here. I think they would be good. So from here, one thing to remember is using the browser, if you wanted to make a workflow, you could still make a workflow in SharePoint 2013 and Office 365, but you don't have any new templates to make these workflows in. So the templates that if you have been around in SharePoint for a long time, Office 365 is in a long time, the same templates that were there, which is approval, the publishing approval, the 3-stage, and those kind of templates are still there.
Get comments and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's nothing new over there. Legacy ones are there. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and show some of that stuff because seeing is believing. I think that's the main thing here.
Yeah, I never had too many people use those. They love them in demos, but then they would try to implement it, and it's like, oh, it doesn't work as well as I wanted.
I actually see a lot of people use it, but still, it's restricting, right?
Yes, very minimal.
And this, by the way, is my sites page. As I was telling you, I was looking at it. This is what it looks like right now. It's got a lot of sites in there. Well, this is not our main site anyway, though. Here we go. Let me go back. I'll go to something like this. Yeah, it should be good. Sites test. All right, so here's my site. And within my site, if I go, for example, to the documents library, and I got some stuff here, some expenses, some blah, blah, blah. I go to library.
Since I know everyone's going to ask, what are those green things all over your page? Is that links to your context? Is that contextual help?
Yeah, okay. I have that turned on this site, but this is
got it. Yep.
This is Visual SP help system, and this is for end users specifically. So introduction to libraries, of course, would open up introduction and stuff like that. Yeah.
Very cool.
Context help for sure. Yep.
I'll stop interrupting. I just thought.
No. This is a good interruption. I appreciate that. No, not at all. Okay, so from documents, library, workflow settings right here. And if I go here, I see that there's one workflow called new workflow, and then there's a test workflow. And then from here, I say, all right, maybe I want to make a new workflow here. And once again, why would you make a workflow on a document library? Maybe it is that every time a document gets uploaded to this library, go ahead and make a copy and put it into that library, right? That could be something simple. So I say, add a workflow. And then see right here, disposition approval, new workflow one, which is a test, which is a template that I created myself, just messing around this particular site. And there's 3-state, and then there's workflow initiation. So, where are my other workflows, you might ask? Where's the approval process template that I've known to use before? Well, the way it is in Office 365, and actually as SharePoint 2013 on-prem as well, you have to turn that feature on that gets those templates, makes them available. And that's back in site settings, site collection features, I believe, site collection features.
That's like I was explaining this to somebody the other day, and I explained it as like a fuse box in your house. I've got a fuse box in my garage that makes me able to turn all of my light switches on and off. If the fuse is turned, it doesn't matter what I do to the light switch, it's not going to show up. It's kind of the same thing. You got to activate these features so you can turn lights on.
Exactly. So same thing over here. And actually, this one is turned on. I was just noticing over here. I don't know what's going on in this particular environment, but this is a feature right here that's turned on. I might have deactivated somewhere else. That's why it's not showing up there. But that's the one that you activate right here. Okay. Our focus, of course, is in SharePoint Designer workflow, so I'm going to actually dig into that more. But I just wanted to show that when you turn that on and you go back into a document library, you say, I want to make a new workflow, this is the old interface that you get. This interface has been around since 2010, actually. The same kind of stuff. You can go ahead and make a unique name, whatever you want it to be. How do you want the workflow to start? Where the tasks are going to be, where the history of this workflow is going to be. Click on OK. And then, believe it or not, you actually get, you know what you get, right? When you click on next, you get, let's see if it will show up in this computer. Oh, I chose a 3-stage one. Let me choose a different one. Let's see. Disposition approval. I don't have, okay, I'm sorry. Let me track back over here. If I chose and if I had the approval workflow and I clicked on next, I actually get an info path form, which is also one of those things where people have been wondering.
People just cringe.
InfoPath is still alive.
It is still alive and kicking, and a tool of choice in many cases.
Yeah, it is. It is. So anyway, but the main point here is that this process has not changed, right? This process has remained the same since 2010, actually. So 6 years ago, we had a similar process, and it hasn't changed a bit. And that's to go with SharePoint 2010 on-prem, SharePoint 2013 on-prem, and also Office 365. Now, what has changed in SharePoint 2013 and also in Office 365 for the last 3 years now, actually, has been what you do in SharePoint Designer. Okay, so now, folks, if you're not familiar with SharePoint Designer, I can't go into the whole history of it and everything, of course, but just so you know, SharePoint Designer is a free download. You can get SharePoint Designer. In fact, I downloaded this morning on this particular computer because I didn't have it. I didn't realize. Actually, maybe an hour and a half ago now.
Yeah.
You download it, quick, free, easy download. You just have to have some SharePoint sites that you can connect to, and then you just go click on File, Sites, Open Site, and from here you just type in the site address, which mine is with SharePointVideos.SharePoint.com, right? And once you do that, you see a view like this. And within this views, the one we're focusing on is workflows. Yeah. Okay, so within workflows, another thing that I did not realize, Jen, which I'll have to work on a little bit, is I don't have the .NET framework completely installed here. So I see a few things, I don't see other things. So what I'm going to show, I guess, automatically is if you don't have the .NET framework installed, here's what you don't see. Here we go. You see this. Announcement approval. Approval is SharePoint 2010. So within this one, this is a SharePoint 2010 type of workflow. Once again, backtrack here a little bit, have people understand. Within SharePoint Designer, you can make workflows, and these workflows could be SharePoint 2010 type of workflows or SharePoint 2013 type of workflows. I can point you guys to some other supplemental material if you guys want to dig into it. But just so you know, right now, SharePoint 2013 workflows are much, much more advanced workflows. That's the main thing, of course, and that's what goes into Office 365. Meaning you have the capability of looping, for example. You have the capability of copying and pasting your.
I love looping. My favorite example for looping is one that I was always asked to do, and it was kind of hard in previous versions, but to be able to send a weekly email reminder for someone to do something. And a lot of people who manage team sites, I mean, people live in email and they want those weekly reminders to come, and loops are beautiful for that.
Completely agree on that. So yeah, some of these things, you really need that, and it was just not there before. In 2013 came around, the whole workflow engine is new, it's different in 2013 and Office 365, and that allows for the looping, the staging, and things like that. All right, and I think I actually have a list of all these different things, if I can find it here, since you brought that up. Here we go. We got stages in Office 365 workflows. We got Visual Designer, that's there. We have the new task actions that are there. We have a bunch of different things like that, right? The web services, the loops, obviously, and then the copy, cut, and paste. Honestly, my favorite feature and probably the easiest to understand is the copy, cut, and paste, because that actually gave me trouble a lot. Whenever you have to make a new one, even if it's on a different list or something, you have to actually make it again. There was no way to just copy and paste, right?
I like that one. My favorite might have to be the task actions, though, because in previous versions, holy bajobi, opening up that task thing, I never successfully did that in a workflow without breaking it at least once or twice and having to reinsert it. And it was like opening up a workflow inside of a workflow inside of a workflow that just went hot mess so quickly. And so in 2013, task actions I'll actually revisit and work with showing people how to do. I think they're so much easier to understand.
Absolutely. So true. There's definitely a lot of good stuff there. Once again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I like to say it as it is. And one thing that I was disappointed with, and I'm sure you guys also, if you dig into it further, is there are some things that were there in 2010 or before, which are not there in 2013 in Office 365.
Yes.
To give an example, one thing that people miss a lot is the ability for me to look up my manager or somebody's manager. So if I want to assign a task, onboarding scenario, for example, right? Assign this person's manager a task to onboard this person or whatever. Well, I can't do that in 2013 because there is no action for me to find that person's manager. So, and actually that actually brings this up. This is the reason I wrote this one a long time back. Is this it? Let's see. Is this it? It's either here or some of the other. I have a couple of different SharePoint Designer. Oh, here we go. Find Manager. Let me actually show you guys this thing. So Find Manager. I ended up writing a couple of lines of code to show somebody, or I'm sorry, not code. I didn't mean to say that, Jennifer. Sorry. A couple of lines of statements here, which says Find Manager of this person who actually created this task, and then output to variable manager, and then update item and current list, or you can actually pass this parameter back to the person who actually asked for it. So what I end up doing is showing people how you can make a 2013 workflow and then call this 2010 workflow and then actually have this information like the manager being brought back to the 2013 workflow. Same, and by the way, every time I say 2013, I mean 2013 or Office 365, same thing here.
It's so crazy the things you have to jump around to do, but I mean it kind of is what it is. And then permissions, weren't there a lot of permissions changes with what you could do? That's the one that tripped me up quite a bit. That's
also true. So if I wanted to set permission on a certain document, for example, I could do that in 2010 before. So in 2013 doesn't allow you to do some of that stuff, unfortunately. Once again, you can always, it's backwards compatible, so you can call the 2010 workflow to do that for you and then jump back in. But like you said, there's a workaround.
New tools are not supposed to make my life more complex.
I agree with you. So I was disappointed with when I first saw this many years ago now. But I've calmed down since then, and now I just tell people the story the way it is right now. And if they don't like it, the next option after that is to either write your own, because you could write statements here, by the way, right? These statements, these actions and conditions stuff, you can actually write your own.
Right.
And writing your own is, and I think it's a lot more difficult than actually purchasing it. There are a couple of companies out there, which if people want, I can send them the slide deck or point them to it. But there are companies out there which will sell you a bunch of activities.
Yeah, and those are really cool. Yep.
Absolutely. Like this one, for example, Finding Manager, that's one of the activities that's actually part of the package. And the package itself is actually not that costly. I mean, for maybe $1,000 actually, you can have it for your whole farm.
Yeah, and we would write custom actions. If I found as an administrator that was always doing the same task or the same lookup or the same thing over and over, we would write some actions there, or things that were clunky inside of SharePoint Designer. You'd never believe that things are clunky, but in versions like trying to do an auto numbering system and pulling in the latest number and some of those different things, they're able to be done, but they take a little bit more thought and effort. And if you're constantly having to do that, then that might be a good idea to have a developer come in and help you write some type of action so you can call something like that.
Absolutely. It's if you do dedicate and actually go this route, I would definitely highly suggest people to keep their options open as to either write the custom actions as needed or buy them, because you will hit against that wall. That's definite. That's going to happen.
And if you're not a SharePoint development shop and you don't really have the money to go get the Nintex tools and the K2 tools, but you want some of these custom actions, there are plenty of consultants out there that you should be able to go get just to do one or two one-off actions, and it should be something that's easy to get to.
All right, so since you're naming names, I'm going to go ahead and name some names.
Hey, once Microsoft started naming names, I can name names. I have my favorites, everyone knows.
Yeah, Nintex K2, AgilePoint is another one that actually has a good BPM model for that, for workflows and stuff. In addition to that, something that, let me go ahead and put this out there. Where to go? Not this one. If people are interested in buying something, which, like I said, it's not that expensive, relatively, here are a couple of different companies, and I've actually provided the links to those companies and specific
I've
workflows.
worked with SharePoint
Yeah.
before. There's a question, Asif. What is your thought on SP Designer not being upgraded starting in 2016 and only has support lifespan for the next 10 years?
Yeah, well, my first thought is 10 years is a long time. Long time. We have no idea, first of all, are we going to be around? Is SharePoint going to be around? And Microsoft's going to be around? 10 years in technology is a long time. So I wouldn't worry about the current version and support of this version right now. That's my number one point. Second, was I happy when I heard that the environment that I've been using since 2000, what was it, 2000, actually 2000, it was Front Page, and I was using Front Page at that time. Was I happy to hear that that environment is going away from Front Page to SharePoint Designer, all that stuff that I've written 2 books on, SharePoint Designer 2020? No, I was not happy to hear that. Okay. Having said that, I definitely understand the direction. And actually I have this in one of my slides, which I'll show you right now also. Mark Cashman, who I'm sure some of you at least know.
We've got about 3 minutes. I didn't realize how time was going.
Sorry.
So.
I'll make it quick over here. Just the further future direction. So here we go. This is the direction that they're taking, web-based workflows someday, because I don't know about that date yet, according to Mark Cashman at Last Ignite.
It's going to be in the fall. We just don't know what year yet. Just like InfoPath. There is an InfoPath solution coming in the fall. We're 4 falls later, but it's coming in the fall, I swear.
And I'm sure it's 2000 something. So 20XX. What do you say?
It could be. I mean, it could be 300.
I think this is definitely the right direction to go in. I just don't know when, and that's what bothers me. Like companies like Nintex are already doing it right now, you know. So I want Microsoft to also do something at least basic someday, because SharePoint Designer has given us a great environment, and from that to go to nothing is not acceptable. So there's got to be something, and I'm hoping that something comes someday.
And they've put one of the somethings, which is definitely not even remotely close to a replacement, but an interesting something when you think about this is Power Apps. And the potential that it has. And so we don't really have a lot of time to go into it, but I did post in the chat window the link for, we did a Power Apps Pulse show. That was actually our last show, and we had the engineering team come out, and he gave a great demo. So if that's something you're interested in, I put that link there so you could watch that recording. Again, it's not, I mean, you ask Asif and I, could we use Power Apps right now to replace what we do in InfoPath and SharePoint? And the answer is not even close. But it's still a cool tool, and it's got some great potential. It's just, slow rollouts. So
one quick promotion. I'll be displaying and talking about Power Apps in 2 of my sessions that I'm doing, one in Denver and one in Austin, upcoming month.
Which Austin show?
Austin SP TechCon, and then SharePoint Fest.
Oh goodness, you have, okay, so we should sync up. I've got a Power Apps show.
Really?
At SP TechCon, as well as Brian Jacket. So we should team up.
We need to team up. We should, definitely.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate everybody coming today. I want to kind of be mindful for time. Asif, it's always great to have you. You are welcome to come back anytime.
Thanks, Jen.
And share with us. We'll leave the room open for a couple of minutes if anybody has any questions for us. Otherwise, Asif, do you have any closing words for us?
SharePoint has been and continues to be a moving target. Always keep your mind open about things that are coming down the pipeline. Watch shows like Jen's show over here, which will keep you up to date on what's going on.
Thank you.
And live life on the edge, just like we do.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thanks for a great show. We've got our next show coming up. We'll have the links up for registration for that very soon. And my next show is going to have Kathy Dew and Lori Gowan. And we are going to be talking about a few of our favorite things. So maybe I'll even make a song, roses and raindrops on kittens and whiskers on roses. No, raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens. Maybe I'll make up a song for us to have for our favorite things. That is what we are going to be doing next. So everybody, it's been great to have you guys here, and thanks for coming out.
Thanks, guys.